Hello, guys. Welcome to our show. Good people, welcome. By the way, I don't want to discriminate bad people. Welcome to our show as well. Anyone who want to learn more about organic reach, about growing strategies, welcome because today we are going to discuss about organic brand growth strategies with Fabrizio Ballarini. How are you?
Hello, hi everyone. Yeah, very good, thanks.
Yeah, big pleasure. Want to learn more about how to grow organically. I used a lot of methods, and I often get the questions how to find the right channel, what kind
Mhm.
of methods to use. So, Fabrizio, before we start, just tell more about yourself, experience, background, and
Mhm.
anything that can help our listeners to learn more about you.
Okay, cool. I'm Italian. I've been living in London now for over a decade. I've been always working in between London and Europe. I work at Wise. Almost 8 years that I work at Wise. I all my career has been pretty much in SEO. From the start when I was consulting in agency. The same goes on here at Wise. Over the years at Wise, I have attached a few other teams to SEO, to what I do, but everything that I do still kind of revolves around, growing organically as opposed to other colleagues who run advertising.
Nice, nice. Okay, I want to start from the first question: how to find the right channel. It's interesting. The reason why I'm asking about that because I see when companies just check out competitors and do something similar, the same, and I often get the question. So I want to get this traffic, I want to get the sales, just bring it. But all brands are different. We have a different unique selling proposition, different strong sides. So tell your methods how to find the right channel.
Mhm. Okay. I think that, again, as everyone probably can guess, this is specific to companies and market. I spent some time with the startups to discuss this problem. Often, to identify what is the right channel for you is also a matter of expectation as well and timing. There are situations where the right channel is probably not the right, is not going to give you that result at the right speed. Maybe I can talk a little bit about what happened at Wise, back in time, transfer-wise. I think the first organic activity that we had in terms of like us growing wasn't anything that we would classify as marketing, but was actually customer telling their friends and then telling other people. So the first one of the first initiatives was to allow this customer to refer their friends, through like an invite a friend referral program that could facilitate this experience. In our case, was like related to making payments and sending and receiving money between countries. But I think this happens in many other companies, where you have that kind of viral growth that can come from people inviting each other. The caveat to this, obviously, and I spent time with startups that were not that successful at that. The caveat to this is that your product needs to be extremely good, and really need it kind of force you to work really hard on making a product that after you use it, you really want to text your friends and say, "Oh my God, I use this thing. You should really check it out." If this is not the case, this experience that was particular to us is a little bit harder to replicate, and that's where you would probably look at other channels. And this was the second initiative that what I joined Wise for, was to kick off our SEO program, to kick off our program to acquire traffic through Google search, primarily organically. And that's something that anyone can do, no matter how good your product is. There's probably going to be a difference in the conversion rate that you have, but you can still produce good content, build good product that will allow you to tap into new market. I think this is like how we approach this. Then on that we layered content creation on social media. We layered CRM, and CRM as well is a channel that we now run as part of this group of organic channel. But the early days when we had no customer, with the customer that were not maybe so sticky as they are now, was there's not much to tell them, right? So I think based on your company growth phase, you probably have different set of channel that can come into the picture. The subject about SEO, I think that at any point in time anyone can jump into building, real estate on the web by creating valuable content or valuable assets. That can happen anytime. The only challenge, I guess, that company need to face, as opposed to paid advertising, is that this investment is not something that materialize today, right? So I don't spend money, I don't give money to Facebook or Google today to get it back tomorrow. It's probably an activity that you need to carefully, pace throughout a certain amount of time. You need probably a little bit of buy-in in your organization on the fact that this might take a bit. That's what happened with us at the beginning. Yet is not that we operate at the end of the day organic activities with a different investment parameter than paid. We also look at our, organic doesn't mean free, right? We pay our salary, we pay engineers, designers, content creators, right? So it's just a slightly different approach when it comes to understanding the investment, but it still involves investing money and then eventually having different parameter of the return of that money. But even in the case of organic investment advice, we do need to answer to finance and we need to answer to the revenue that comes on the back of it. So it doesn't mean like doing things for the sake of it. It just means that is operating slightly different from an investment perspective than some paid activities.
Nice. Love it. Awesome. I'm interested about your unique selling proposition. I mean, I open wise.com, and I think we have a bunch of other companies that can provide the same services, products. And in marketing, if you don't stand out from the rest, I'm not sure that you can get results. But can you tell your unique selling proposition? And then you mentioned a few times about creating good content, content creation process. I'm interested how you can highlight your unique selling proposition in content creation process.
Okay, I'll answer the first question on the proposition, maybe to even just a little bit more background to people about Wise. So Wise, back in time, TransferWise started as a money transfer company. So our goal was to transfer money from one bank account to another bank account. And probably, this is not new. It's something that companies like Western Union have done for hundreds of years. So it's not new. The banks have been doing this all along. What our customer care about, which kind of makes them competitive and unique in instances, but also in other instances make us less competitive than others, is eventually like the speed at which we can operate these transfers. Right, you want your money to show up immediately, not wait 3 days or get stuck.
Yeah.
You want this to be cheap. You probably live between country, and you know that moving money between country costs money, and it can impact your personal finance. And the last thing you want is this service to be available in terms of coverage, in terms of how convenient it is to use it on an app as opposed to not. These are the things that our customer care about. And if you, as an organization, you relentlessly focus on this, you're probably gonna stand out in the experience that you give to people. Then when it comes to marketing and content differentiation, I think that this matters at the point at which you have convinced Google, and I'll explain what I mean. And then, because like most of the content that we generally do, right? There's some transactional content about people that want to send money, people that want to do more transactional, financial terms query. But we do a lot of content that is for people in audience for us, right? We, people that want to relocate country, people that are buying a house abroad, people that are doing different action with their money. And in that case, at that point in time, we're solving a query that the customer has got in relation to a problem that they have, which might lead to money transfer. And at that point in time, we don't really have to solve our value proposition. We need to give a good answer to the problem that you have as a customer. Yet at some point, there is the chance that you have solved that problem. You maybe bought a house abroad, or you convince yourself that you need to relocate to another country. And then at that point, you will hopefully remember us, and that's where probably our proposition that I told you earlier will come into play. So most of our content is, I think, is solving a little bit of both. When I say solving Google, it's not that we're writing the content for Google, but we're writing the content for the intent of the user. And then obviously this user being in market eventually will lead these people to consider us when the case happen. This is not easy though. We have been attracting million of visits over the years. If I look at the Google Search Console, how much traffic we drove in the last 8 years is absolutely insane. We do not have as many customers as that traffic that we drove, and the reason why is that convincing people to switch a provider, to stop using their bank in case the bank is not providing a good service, is not easy, especially when it comes to money, right? Like, it's very, and that's why Google eventually and other search engines, they care a lot about this kind of financial queries, because there's also impact involved in consideration involved in the fact that you might switch providers for the good or for the bad. So yeah, that's an exercise where also, from an organic standpoint, our goal in the years has been pretty much the one to extend our footprint on the web as much as possible, to help our customers, with the view that, even though we help many customers with the problem that they have in their normal lives with through our content, still might not lead to them using Wise as a service, but that's fine. That's why over time, you go from just doing SEO, or just a customer that referring a friend, to eventually introduce CRM, where you can have a bit more closer relationship to the people that maybe have already read your content for a while. They are engaged with what you're trying to achieve, but then they haven't quite decided that it's time to move to another banking provider. And then at that point, through CRM, you can probably convince them over time better that you would do than them having to re-Google. So, like, I want to send money abroad, and then you have a chance again to miss them because there are other people that show up. So I think that's the kind of approach that we have taken over the years. The other way around, it would have been a bit difficult, at least for us, because without a large customer base, now we have around 50 million customers. Without a large customer base, we felt that our ability to do any kind of relationship with them was not as impactful. Also, again, in our case, we are like a relatively fast growing company, and our goal as a marketing team has always been the one to invest in new user growth, less so in working on existing user, in the hope that the product was retaining those user. But then obviously, anyone becomes mature at some point. Anyone start doing a better job in one area, a bit less good job in another area. That's why that relationship becomes important beyond them just finding you when they Google, because that's we can rank first in Google every time that they perform a query that is related to us, but still doesn't mean that the next payment will be done with us, which is eventually what we care about, right? Like, it's quite surprising, actually. I don't think this happens just in the financial industry. It probably happens in many other industries where people tend to have multiple providers for the same service. We have customers that have been with us. This is not the norm, right? But we have customers that have been with us for a few years, and then at some point they go back to do a payment with their bank, even though they're being overcharged for that particular payment. And sometimes, it's convenient. Sometimes you kind of forgot that was the best way to do it, at least in that particular situation. So, like, keeping an active conversation with people the day that they are your customers can also help you grow faster. And this is an activity that we employ people to communicate to them. We employ people to write content for them, but then we consider organic in the sense that we don't need to advertise. We don't need to re-access paid inventory on Facebook or Google or any other kind of platform. Yeah.
Nice. Love it. Yeah, awesome. I opened wise.com, and what I like on this website, something that many companies ignore: simplicity. For example, if I open apple.com, I can see only iPhone, nothing else. iPhone and like a quote make difference, nothing special. I can scroll down to find more information about MacBook, Apple Watch, but in the first visible screen, only iPhone. And I see the same on wise.com. Very simple, a lot of free space. Yeah, it doesn't confuse me where to go, what to do. Can you tell about simplicity? How to find this balance between sharing more and less, because for example, I remember Mark Twain said about that, I have no time to write short letter, that's why I usually write long letter. And but we need to do it, customers can bounce fast. We have this uh, I don't remember exactly, like most customers bounce in a few seconds, so tell how you learn your customers to simplify their experience.
Yeah, I think that's actually quite a heated topic in the sense that we recently rebranded in terms of like our experience on the website. Last couple of years ago, we moved from TransferWise to Wise. Like our proposition as a company has changed throughout the years, right? While when I joined 7.5 years ago, it was purely like a money transfer company. These days, you can hold money with us on our account. You can pay with a card. You can earn interest on the account. You can do many things that you were not able to do before. In the past, our core product, money transfer, was probably a bit complicated to communicate. And the approach that we had over time was to try to be simple, yet not as simple as you probably see today. The reason why is that the majority of the people who do an international payment are not aware that by getting a bad exchange rate, they lose money, right? Like they think that the transfer is free, right? That's the majority of the consensus of the people. It's not that people are stupid. It's not that they're not educated. It's just that this is an area that over time there hasn't been a lot of transparency. These days, that Wise offer a more broader set of products and feature. The strive of the people is to make it simple and make it more immediate to get. Personally, I'm a little bit on the other side as well, in the sense that what you see there is the outcome of some fights, because sometimes when you think about simple pages, to my mind, that with my SEO background, I already start thinking, okay, where the links are gone, where do we where is the content, are we going to rank in Google without the content and things like that. So in certain type of pages, I think that approach is absolutely fine, and it's probably the right thing to do. For instance, if you open wise.com on page, we don't we don't try to tell you everything that we possibly could in the name of convincing Google. We don't need to rank for wise.com, right? We do.
Yeah.
Everyone that search Wise will come to the page. Pages that are more deep down in the architecture and content that we do. Some of it is a little bit more long form, so the actual experience is a little bit less simple. And I think that's the trade-off that any company probably need to find. I'm not claiming that we have solved this. This is like, there are ongoing conversation on this subject, right? Like on various fronts, right? As with the design team and other people. And but I think that's if possible, I think is great to provide that simple approach. If not possible, sometimes I think people need to work out how to design pages so that even though they are information rich, they're still very usable. Again, back to our example of money transfer versus the example that you gave of apple.com. You do not need to teach to any person on this planet what an iPhone is, right? Like,
Yeah.
when it's coming out, people know what an iPhone is. If you speak to people doing international payments between countries, I can guarantee that at least 5 out of 10 are not aware on how much they're being charged, right? So I think that's the difference on the eventually how you approach the content and the approach. But then equally, even within that, I think that companies can work hard in researching what type of visuals, what type of messaging can resonate to people to solve that education problem. Like that's our goal in marketing, and our goal with organic activities is not necessarily the one to hard sell on Wise, in the sense that most of the time we try to intercept a user that is doing kind of something else, either paying with another provider or comparing providers, but it's not really on to using Wise. And the only thing that we need, the majority of the user, at least half of the user, they switch because of price, not because of the other reason that I mentioned earlier. And the most important thing to make them understand is to educate them on understanding the price of a transfer. If everyone would know how much they're being charged to transfer money, we wouldn't need to do very complicated SEO. We were just ranking Google for a couple of keywords like money transfer. There would be millions of people searching for it. we are cheap and fast, and there will not be a problem. The reality is that most of the people don't search for it. It would be the equivalent of you starting booking.com and people don't know that they can Google hotel plus city, right? Like this is the problem that we have in our industry, right? That's why like the role of marketing is not to necessarily rank for all the transactional term that you have in other industry like hotel, flights, and all the industry where there's a lot of transactional volume on user intent. In our case, we could be teaching you what is the best health insurance the day you relocate to America, but as long as you get, after that article, you get one learning from us, that is, next time you do a money transfer, you don't need to use Wise, just compare, right? Like just think
Yeah.
about the price. If you do that exercise, you will probably go through this loophole of research, compare various bank, other money transfer providers, and then eventually use us if we are the cheapest, right? Then if we are the most convenient, right? But yeah, I think that's a very hard challenge. But that's why sometimes I think also some companies, they limit what they do in terms of like organic and particularly SEO by covering what is the territory that they're being given, right? So your industry has got X amount of transactional keyword, the stuff that you would be probably running PPC ads on. You rank for these keywords, and then maybe you have a blog with a little bit of long tail content, and that's about it. Unfortunately, if there is enough of that demand, like there are industries like maybe in gambling and a few others where probably a couple of ad terms they cover majority of the transaction, that's probably fine. But for industry like us, where most of the transaction happen from people that don't even touch Google, that's where you have to be a bit more creative, right? You cannot just open people googling the keyword money transfer and then come to Wise website, but you have to try to find many other ways to intercept them in their experience on the web. Obviously you cannot write about the weather, right? Like there's a limit to how far you can go. Just let me give you one example, right? So imagine you are buying a villa in Spain, and you need to pay for this villa in Spain. There are many things that we could teach you. We could teach you how to pay a mortgage in Spain, how to complete a process of a sale of a house in Spain. We could teach you how to go about this whole thing and buying a villa. If you go further down that user and their life, you probably at some point that person has searched, what are the 10 best villa in Alicante that I could buy. That's where we don't go, right? Because that's where there's a specialist real estate site who's providing that experience. This is not our job. There's nothing that we can help. The chances that you're going to buy that villa at the time of that query is kind of pretty much you dreaming about your dream house, right? Like it would be the same equivalent of selling you a 20 million real estate by watching a YouTube video, right? Most of the people, they just watch the YouTube video, right? So I think people need to learn how far they can go in the journey of the user, but then at some point it's worth going a bit more far in their experience, because that's the point where probably your competitor or not, you can add value, and then probably is the point where you can start to introduce your service to people, so that the next time, maybe 2 years down the line, right? Like doesn't matter to us, right? 2 years down the line, as long as you remember Wise, I think we're fine, right? Like the cost of production of that content, the investment is still good, right? There's no reason why we wouldn't want to make it differently from paid advertising, that we cannot afford to pay Facebook and Google x many pound a click all the time that you have that intent. As opposed on the organic front, especially when you cover evergreen queries, you can afford to put a piece of content out that stays out for almost years. You probably need to update it, you probably need to improve it, but you're not going to waste that money next month, and this eventually that conversion will happen within X amount of time. And then the challenge with this, and talking about earlier about investment, is that there's a compound effect of this, right? The first time you will publish your first 10 articles, no one will buy any villa and transfer money.
Yeah.
So I think there's a certain upfront investment exercise and compound effect. We need to drive to our properties on the web X much traffic for a certain amount of time for this flywheel to happen. The early days, also, what you don't know is what of this topic, I'm not saying that buying properties abroad is the holy grail of what we do. It's maybe one of the topic, but it's one of the many. But the early days when we first started the blog with a colleague that was with me when I first joined, we absolutely had no idea on what to write about in terms of content, right? Like eventually we find out that few series of content produced literally gold, but at the time when we wrote them, we didn't know. So there's another challenge in terms of investment, because the early days you probably need to have enough headroom to spend X amount of time to create good quality content for a while. Because the content needs to be indexed, ranked, and that kind of already takes probably a few months. And B, because you probably need quite a bit of traffic with quite a bit of content before some of these happen. This is, these are particular experience in going way more long tail than probably some people would go if obviously you don't take this approach and you write content that is closer to the conversion to your user. That's probably easier, right? That's probably, you can maybe within a month or two, if you're successful in ranking for that piece of content, you can see the result, you can have some revenue, and then you can go knock at the door of your finance team and say, hey, I need more money because the last 10 articles were a good idea.
Yeah, awesome. Short long answer. Well explained. Fabrizio, I want to ask about your strategy, for SEO, because I check out wise.com on Ahrefs, and I check out top pages, and I see a lot of traffic are coming to converter pages, simple calculators, converters. Can you tell how to find these pages that will bring traffic, and your methods of creating these pages? I mean, like, because today we have a lot of converters, 1,000 converters, but how you can create content that stand out from the rest and help more users than other converters that you can find online?
Yeah. Okay. I think that like the landscape has been pretty much the same in the last almost 10 years, I would say, in that space. When I first proposed to have our own converter, our founder Christo was in that room, and he told me very clearly, it's a terrible idea, not that politely. That's a terrible idea. Why wouldn't anyone go on Bloomberg and find the same exchange rate that
Yeah.
we find? It's a very valid point, and also if you think from an SEO standpoint, there were people in there, Yahoo or XE, is the Wikipedia equivalent worth of link to outrank, right? So these were people that were established in there and everything. I think like we decided to do this anyway many years ago, and it proved to be a good idea, and equally we do it in many other areas. With the understanding that same principle as before, if we help our customers or if we provide answer to our customer at some point in their experience, this is generally a good idea. Whether this is competitive to approach is fair, right? Like, and how to build it is also a challenge. To date, but early days as well, we have two teams at Wise that actually work on SEO on wise.com. One is the editorial team that I mentioned earlier that write long form unstructured content on the blog. The other one is a product engineering team, the one that build any kind of product, tool, calculator, directory, is the one who build the platform on the website, and so on and so forth. The way that we build this application, these are like kind of relatively scalable application that work against templates that are pretty easy to put together from a technical point. There's a lot of debate on the URL structure of this application, and that's probably the key part of it. Think about 17 countries, time 400, 700 root combination, time 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 pound. Is every time you add one amount, you add a million of pages. So you have to be really careful on how you go about this. I don't think that to date, some people have copied us in the years. Some people have copied XE. At some point, XE did a bit like us, and to date, I don't think we have a definitive answer on what a question like this, on the structure, on the approach. There are people that with low quality site have been entering and exiting that space pretty quickly, so they spam the site, million and million of pages, and then they disappeared immediately at some point because of the quality being poor. Historically, what we do, we invest in a product by creating the full product. Sometimes we launch smaller prototype to just make sure that we can rank for that. But then the day that we are all in, we don't manage these in a content management system, but these are separate application. Each of these run a particular product. This one is, for instance, the calculator product. My advice is like to always go after these things, and even though this might not take a week, right? For the first year of us competing there, our founder was right. We didn't win a lot. Now, this is not really like the key of our organic growth, but is a component in there, right? Like it's one of the many that we have, and so I think is about long-term commitment, right? Like any company should know that as we knew that in 20 years time, people, unless all the currency disappears and we will have a single cryptocurrency, but until we have national currencies, we know that for the next foreseeable future, people will search for exchange rates, right? So as a company, you make a decision to enter that space. It's competitive. There are many giants in there that us as Wise many years ago was not the same website that is now. It was technically scary, but in practice, over the years we did it. I'm not going to share where we are in terms of like the market share of this, but I think we made a decent dent in how that thing went, as opposed to though. At the same time, there are area of that keyword universe that we're not so competitive, because of choices that we made. There are area where we actually don't rank as well as we could. But again, on one side is the ability to build many pages, and that one, if you have the good engineers, you can do it. The other side is to decide whether you want to index in Google 10, 20, 50, 100 million pages. These are choices that as a team you need to make, and that's what we have to do. And then based on that, our performance might change. What you don't see in href obviously is the performance in terms of revenue and the impact of having this. Sometimes these especially on queries where there is not a very plain SERP layout, and this is coming more and more with the new chat experiences that search engines are releasing. But the more there is not a plain layout, the more some of these tools, they really inflate or deflate the actual traffic that some section get. The reason why is that in order to rank there, now we have very good click-through rate curves for that particular product. But if you are an outsider without our Google Search Console, you basically need to apply most likely some standard click-through rate curve, but then this might be different depending on some component like the box that Google has got, and similar to Google Flights or Google Hotels and things like that. So sometimes again, this tool give you an idea on the fact that are we doing well in that area over the years? Yes. Can you really tell where is the money making pages? Not often, because sometimes at some point we also go completely nuts in traffic on currencies that we don't even support in the company yet, right? It's obviously our ambition to have global coverage in all the currencies in the world in our platform at Wise, but right now we don't serve all the countries in the world. So it could be that the calculator has got 10 times more traffic this month, but we don't need it, right? I'd rather not have it, right? Like at the same time, I think sometimes a company need to think a bit long term, because when we started Wise, we only had euro and pound, so there probably would have not been any need to do all the other currency. But for the sake of quality and completeness of that product, it would have been pretty weird to have a product that was just doing euro to pound exchange rate, right? You could be doing it, but it's not. You're missing a bit the trick, I think, if you limit too much. At the same time, when you do everything, then clearly you have some pages that are href, good on href, but not good for your website because they don't make any money. They So I think this is a consideration to make. But to again answer your question, I would still do it, and I would recommend anyone to do it if they're committed long term to enter the space. If your customer are going to be searching this set of query in 5 to 10 years time, even though it's competitive, even though on day one seems not achievable, I would still do it. Then obviously you need to build the right expectation with your organization on the fact that next week we're not going to outrank XC for converter query, right? It's like
Yeah.
not possible, right? Like unless you're lucky, unless something happens, right? Some glitch, right? But it's not possible, right?
Nice. Love it, love it. I check out backlinks on these converters, and I couldn't find a million links, thousand links, even 100 links. Like all these pages have like a few backlinks, 3, 5 backlinks, and but I think websites like wise.com that have authority. This authority can help, to push these pages, but you have these backlinks. Can you tell why do you use link building? Because I see many companies can ignore link building and have success because of authority, their strong benchmark, and your methods, how to push. I mean, like, okay, we have converters, we have high quality content, but anyway, backlinks can help, to increase this impact. Your tips about link building and your methods to provide link building for these converters.
Okay, I'll tell you some behind the scenes. So pretty much what goes on in the SEO team is two set of people. There is
Mhm.
me that so far since I'm at Wise, I never launched a single link building campaign, and that I
Mhm.
keep forcing the people in the team to build better pages and better product. And then there are some people in the team that correctly point out that in some area, like don't think about converter in particular. I think in general, we have a large website, right? There are some area where we might be a bit short of links against competitors, and by doing some quick test, it could be something that helps. What we have done up to now, this might change, but what we have done up to now, we always prioritize building better and more product. Um, this was because we felt that there were enough opportunities to grow our keyword pool,
Mhm.
and the day you don't grow your keyword pool as a startup, even though you do a fantastic job and rank first with the best link for every keyword, you still don't get a lot of traffic, right? So what we focused in the first, this 6+ year, was simply build more, build more, build more. The day that we have built so much, content, so much product, not everything keeps growing, right? Some stuff goes a bit down, some stuff goes a bit up. And then, also on your ability to improve the quality of certain pages, right? From a user experience, from like a SEO standpoint, at some point you run out of a bit of idea, right? So at that point, I think some people in the team are like, okay, why don't we try a bit of link building? Me, I'm still of the idea of telling them, why don't you build another product, right? Why don't you build another converter? There must be some other converter that we can build, right? So I think we're still in that debate phase to date. It doesn't mean that Wise doesn't acquire Link. We
Mhm.
have a quite established PR operation. We always been in the news in the last years because we are successful. We have been a successful startup that went public and so on and so forth. It's just a topic that probably because of those factors, we had the luxury to ignore a bit, and we had the luxury and to some extent, I think that many people should probably do the same unless they're really trying to quickly get out of something. So if you're into the long term, into a given organization, as like we are at Wise, in having a long term success, um, I always, I would always have a bigger website than the more link on the same website. Then if you can do both, probably is sensible to do both, as we try to make the best out of the resources that we have in that sense. And the other bit is measurement. If a team build a calculator that didn't exist yesterday, or an article that didn't exist yesterday, and we get traffic and we acquire a new customer, that's very easy to measure, right? Like, we know that it didn't exist yesterday, it exists today. The day you start playing in the ranking space for pages that you have already been ranking, no matter how people try to elude themselves, that they can debug what happened. The web is not static. Your competitor are not static. Your website changes. Your internal link structure change. So, like having the assumption that you can measure the investment in link, I think, especially these days, is still pretty wild, right? And us as a company, we prefer to invest in things that we can measure and that we can do more of, as opposed to, I spoke with many people that, when we interview them, and they're like, okay, why don't you do more link building? And then I'm like, okay, if you can tell me the difference between 500,000 and 1 million budget of link building, I give you this money and you can go ahead and do it. If you cannot tell me the difference between 500,000 and a million, then we don't do it, right? Because it means that the more we want to do, the more we don't know what the difference is, right? And you can do the exercise of checking where the link goes, checking where the page ranks better, what revenue will come on that page, blah 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 blah. Yet is less scalable, is less measurable, but also less scalable. Think about the converter. um, Even though we have the most sophisticated link building campaign, how can we get more link of XC that for the last 20 plus years, if not more, has acquired links to every possible page that they have, right? You do a campaign, you work with the PR team or with other digital PR people, and the coverage that they give you against your link structure is not guaranteed, right? That you're not paying
Yeah.
for this link. Maybe you get the link to the page where you don't need the link, and you in the page that you need the link, you don't get it, right? Is the type of thing that I prefer to control my stuff, right? And that's why with content and with the building assets and products, that's controllable, right? If we release 2 million pages on the website, we can run pretty much a before and after experiment. On that, if we improve the quality of a page, we can run an A/B test to see if that is worth the money. Yeah, I think that's our approach. But again, I understand that not all people are in this condition. Not all companies, they are a unicorn that keep getting mentioned in the news. Not all companies, they go public and all these kind of events that are more link worthy from that perspective. So we had a good wave of links that we didn't work for. Let's put it this way, right? And this might change, right? Because obviously, the day you become established, maybe you're not so you become more mainstream. People don't talk about you anymore in the news as much as they do. But yeah, but for now is no. For now,
Yeah,
no.
gotcha. So valuable. And Fabrizio, I have the final question. What I found that I usually get high results with clients who understand SEO. If they understand, then we can cooperate like a cohesive team. If they don't, then I usually tell them, take my course, learn from Lily Ray, Mike Phillips, Jeff Coyle, many other great experts. Or go to Google, YouTube, find the best place where you like to learn, get the basic. Then we can cooperate to get great results. Uh, can you tell if you started today from scratch without any experience, knowledge, skills, it's your first day in SEO? What will you do today to learn more about SEO and getting results like you have in wise.com?
Mhm. Okay, yeah. It was actually like a tweet a while ago, someone asking, okay, how would you advise a small business owner, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think both sides, whether you are someone that wants to start that career, as their main job, or whether you are a business owner that has to buy that service, I think that education part is essential, because unfortunately, this is not like a standard that is not like us providing electricity or or things like that. There are different services with different levels, with different skills, right? That might be the best fit for your small business, but it might not be the right fit for your budget. So I think that initial part of like learning, and these days, this is in the past as well, right? When I started years ago, there was still a lot of very useful and amazing content. These days there is an abundance of it, right? So I don't think that you can, and most of it is kind of free almost, right? So your ability to learn is pretty insane. I would probably spend a good amount of time, trying to get like a broader knowledge, but then eventually also deep dive in one area. Um, unfortunately, the need of specialism in some area is increasing, and the SEO that does a bit of everything, sometimes, in my case is fine, because I am not the, I'm the lead of various people that work on SEO, but the people who do technical work are better than me technically. The people who do
Yeah.
content work are better than me in terms of content. At least at the beginning of your career, probably is good to specialize on something. Then you can rebroaden up from that standpoint. The second is like, we did grad interviews not long ago, and we talked to this grad that they finished their education, they start in their first job, and like, you realize how some people, this is not SEO related, but it's the same example. The ambition of this person was to work in social media marketing, and the same could be with someone doing SEO. And then the second question that you ask them is that, okay, let's talk about TikTok, the most one of the most popular social media these days. And the answer that they give you is that, actually, I disinstalled TikTok, because I was spending a bit too much time on it. If that is your passion and your career, it's the equivalent of being a pilot that doesn't want to be on the plane, right? Like, type of problem, right? So often, to do anything like being, start creating content on social media, having your own WordPress blog is virtually free, right? Like, a domain costs £10, and it's the equivalent of you missing a dinner with your friends, and you can give yourself the ability to self-start on the web without any kind of cost. I think that's something that I really advise, to really, study, some people, but also try yourself, because obviously what your experience is, then that's what company also will hire for, right? Someone could have studied all the SEO courses that you could find online, but if they never press the button on publishing a single page in their life and see what happens
Yeah.
with Google, that is less valuable than one person that has done the exact same journey, but has spent their weekends trying to have a small blog. Very unsuccessful small blog, it doesn't matter, but is dynamical, and it is
Yeah.
more relatable for your employer, right? There's people that are employing you can relate what you have done, in a smaller scale, in a not professional way, to what you will be doing the day you join the company. We do this a lot in our editorial team. There's a lot of people at the beginning of their career that they're learning how to do keyword research, produce content, and things like that. And clearly, when we hire them, most of them don't have a deep SEO experience, but then it's fine. The most interesting part is, you know, in the last years, with the fact that everyone has got a phone and a laptop these days, what have you done, right? That could be resembling this. And if people are more proactive, it means they're probably more interested. It means that when they come, you can feed them more things to learn, and then over time is successful. So I think that's equally important in my view. Probably because I'm someone that at school was really bad, and then at work is fine. So I kind of appreciate a bit more what people do than what people kind of have studied, right? Even though I completely respect who spend the time in studying complicated things that are useful. But yeah, but I think that's what I would advise to people. And luckily this day, any of this stuff is available and free. You need a
Yeah.
laptop and internet. That's how far this thing goes, right? 15 years ago, it would have been a bit more complicated for you to, it was already possible, but it was not as, one click install type of things, right? Then you're already on the web, and you can start creating content, see what happens, and yeah.
Yeah, today it's hard to find excuses, and I completely agree. It's like it's not only about how to learn; it's more about how to implement. How to execute. Because Cristiano Ronaldo prefers to hit the ball 1,000 times than read books how to play soccer. And yeah, we need to combine learning and practice. And Fabrizio, it's a big pleasure to get my show to learn from you. I love this experience, so valuable. Tell our audience the best way how to keep learning from you, how to reach out to you, how to follow you.
Cool. Yeah, thanks a lot for having me. It's always good to have a chat. Um, Very simple. Just Google my name. Search me on. I'm on LinkedIn and Twitter. These are the only two platforms where I'm on. On Twitter, I have my gaming nickname, but just search Fabrizio Ballarini. You'll probably find me. There are two people with this name. me and an Italian lawyer that follows some important criminal cases. Don't go with the Italian lawyer who follows some criminal cases. Go with add SEO to it, and you'll probably find me.
Nice, nice. Yeah. And I have one more question. For example, if England will play soccer, in the US, soccer with Italy,
Mhm.
okay, let me know what will be your team.
That's a relatively easy one. I grew up with my father who was racing cars, and I was playing tennis. So football is not really something that
Okay, okay, gotcha.
that like I mean, I'd probably be supporting Italy, right? That's where I'm from. Like I lived until at least 25, 26 in Italy. So I'll
Mhm.
probably be supporting Italy, but I will not be screaming massively
Yeah.
either side. Yeah.
Gotcha, gotcha. Okay, guys, you can find links to LinkedIn account, to Twitter, to wise.com in the description below. Listen us on Apple, Google, Spotify. Thanks again for your time. Love it. So
Thanks a
valuable.
lot.
Share a lot of valuable insights. So yeah, you lead me to an emergency room where I need to spend time, to consume all this data because I help a lot of clients in investing, finance, and many similar niches. So yeah, you gave me some ideas where I can work. Okay, guys, thanks a lot for listening and watching us.